This video was brought to you by my loyal patrons. Pledge today and receive exclusive perks. Link in the description. In a previous video, I said this. I feel like the flying bedstead rides the line of what can and can't be alive in the Railway series. But it is technically a locomotive on rails with an engine and a means of propelling itself. So there's absolutely no good reason it shouldn't be alive, right? It makes me wonder how things like motor scooters or, hell, model trains work in this universe. Would those be alive? We're getting deep in the weeds here. This is a whole discussion for another video. Well, here's that video. Thomas & Friends is a very fun show with a lot of lore that runs deep. It has something for everyone. Impressive model work, great CGI animation, a memorable score, distinctive characters, and of course, trains with faces. But like any show that focuses on anthropomorphic vehicles, a question lingers on everyone's mind that watches it. How are these things alive? You ever watch Thomas and find yourself wondering, wait, why is Birdie alive, but that other bus at the depot we see isn't? Why don't the other cranes at Brendam Docks have faces? Annie and Clarabelle are alive, but why aren't the other coaches? Caroline is just a normal car and she has a face, but Tupham's car doesn't. So like, why isn't that alive? Or is it? Owen is literally a building. Why does he have a face? And why don't other buildings? Who the heck graced a building with the ability to talk? So what are the rules exactly? What is allowed to have sentience in the Thomas universe? And what isn't? What exactly gives a machine life? Today we're going to really dissect this. We're going to think way too hard about this topic and try to come to a conclusion. Join me on this asinine journey. We'll open this video with this quote from the series creator, Wilbert Awdry.
When I was small, I lived at Box. Yeah. And there's a gradient there between Box and Caution. And at night, lying in bed, I'd hear a goods train draw up at Box Station and crow for the banker. Beep, beep, beep. And then the banker would come out of the shed, buffer up behind, and crow, beep, beep, beep. And then you'd hear the train starting. The train engine would say, can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it. And the banker would come up behind, oh yes you can, oh yes you can, oh yes you can. Oh.
The whole reason that Wilbert chose to write stories around sentient steam engines is because he easily perceived them as being alive in real life. When he heard them working hard on the grade near Box Tunnel, the loud chuffing from the engine banking at the back sounded like it was talking to himself. I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. And the engine at the front, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it. And it's really not hard to see how he came to this. It's in our human nature to want to personify things in a way that relates to us. We project ourselves onto them, using their quirks that appear the most human. It's very easy to picture a steam engine talking. Its chuffs and wheeshes sound like dialogue. They huff and puff and groan when they work hard, just like us as people do when we work out. They need water and coal to operate, just like we do with water and food. They can be temperamental and sometimes choose not to work, just like we do on a lazy Sunday. They make a ton of noise when they make an entrance, just like we do when we enter a party and see friends or family.
No, a steam engine is an extrovert. He likes to know, likes you to know, how he's doing or how badly he's being treated.
Yeah.
He's always got something to say.
At their core, steam engines are alive, full stop. So just from the series premise alone, all steam engines, and by extension, all railway engines, including diesel and electric, are alive. There's no question there. There are a couple outliers that I should bring up though. We have seen engines without faces in the series. City of Truro infamously did not have a face when he appeared in the TV series. And they've shown photos of real-life engines in pictures with no faces, indicating that these do exist out there in the Thomas world. Not to mention the illustrations of real-life engines in the Railway series, again without faces. See the first half of Stepney's special when Stepney talks about the Bluebell engines. Despite not having faces, all of these examples are treated as being sentient though. Stepney specifically mentions that Captain Baxter has a bit of a mouth on him.
Captain Baxter's tough too, Stepney went on, and rather rude, but he's worked in a quarry. You know what that does to an engine's languages and manners.
Explicitly stating that he has the ability to speak, whether a face is present on the front of him or not. City of Truro, despite not having a face on screen, also has the ability to speak, and talked with the engines all night long.
He enjoyed talking to the other engines till long after the stars came out.
And then there's Lady. When she was in her faceless state while being worked on, she still had the ability to express sentiment with her whistle.
Well, lady, what are we to do? It all seemed so much easier when Tasha and I were children.
An engine not having a face does not mean lack of sentience, as weird as that seems. It's the series' way of visually differentiating to the audience real engines from our real world from the Thomas characters. The general rule of thumb is that every engine in the world of Thomas and Friends is alive, faceless or not. So what exactly gives these engines life? Well, I think that's a question beyond our understanding. Thomas and the Magic Railroad attempted to give us an answer by implying it's because of magic. Specifically, the Magic Railroad, powered by Lady, who is like a god train in this universe. Because if she were to ever be destroyed, all engine life would cease to exist.
As long as she exists, so do the others. But if she can be destroyed...
Destroyed? Did you say destroyed? D-word.
This is a very vague explanation, though. Because wouldn't this also end life for the diesels as well? Or is this only applicable to steam engines? So do the diesels have their own diesel god train that gives them sentience? It's never really explained. The movie doesn't give a concrete answer for how this works, which was probably for the best, but I will come back to this question later in the video. As far as I'm concerned, all engines just become alive only once they're fully built and they've been steamed or fired up for the first time. This is supported by Jock in his book. He was built by the Railway's workshop, and when he came out for his first tests under his own steam, he was alive. This is also supported in the season 24 episode, Cleo the Road Engine. This episode introduces Cleo, a road engine built by Ruth in her workshop. Ruth had just completed Cleo when we first met her, and she was alive, and everything in the world was new to her. In the same way that our hearts, brains, and inner organs are what keep us alive, I think it's a similar case with locomotives. It's the engines within them that allow them to be alive, their beating hearts, if you will. Bringing up Cleo poses a good question, though. She's not a railway engine. She's built for the roads. So what about machines that aren't built for the rails? Let's look at the non-rail characters now. The answer to this one should be simple. The road characters all have their own engines, so yes, of course they're all alive. George, Trevor, and Buster are basically just steam engines with road wheels. There's nothing that different between them and someone like Fergus. And characters like the Horrid Lorries or the Pack Crew have diesel engines. Again, nothing that much different from diesel locomotives. They're just configured differently and have wheels designed for terrain. Things get a little more tricky when we start to look at more non-workplace stock, because we tend to see a lot more of these that are seemingly not sentient. Say, Bertie the Bus, or Caroline the Car. These are fairly normal road vehicles with normal motors. Yet Bertie has a face, and the other red buses that we see in the show, just like him, don't. Caroline is a normal car, and she's alive with a face, and so is Ace, the race car. And he even has a conventional, full gray face, while Caroline's eyes are her headlights. Yet other cars we see in the series, like Sir Topham Hatt's car, aren't alive, or at least don't seem to be. So why are Caroline and Ace sentient, but Topham's car isn't? Well, the real-world answer here is that Bertie and Caroline and Ace were conceived as characters first. So of course they're alive. And the other cars we see are simply background dressing. Topham's car was never conceived as a character. Again, just sort of background dressing. So it was never considered. Not to mention the abundance of lorries and cars and tractors we see in the background throughout the TV series. The show was about trains, so there was probably zero thought put into the road stock because they knew the kids watching wouldn't really be questioning it. But I know that's not really a satisfying answer for this. The rule that we've established is largely inconsistent in the TV series. However, it is quite a bit more consistent in the Railway series. Road vehicles are depicted a lot more often with visible sentience there, such as here in Steamroller. This random car that Sir Handel passes has a face. Or Willie's tractor, never mentioned as being sentient, but it very clearly has eyes on its front. There's this caterpillar crane, there's this tractor, this random lorry. They're all clearly alive. While it's not always consistent, the rule appears to be, at least in the Railway series, that all the road vehicles have sentience. And this aligns with the rule that we established for the trains. They are still machines, just like railway engines. Machines with engines and motors in them. So yeah, they're all alive, whether they have a visible face or not. Which means, yes, Topham's car would be alive in the Railway series. And that's kind of weird to think about. So far, our general rule has been, the engine within the machine is essentially the beating heart of the machine. So if a machine has an engine that burns fuel, then it's alive. That seems pretty straightforward, right? So what about things like motor scooters or motorcycles? They are also machines, are they not? And they have their own form of an engine that burns fuel. So they should technically count, right? And yeah, I'd say so. I'm inclined to agree with that. As weird as it is, yes, they should have sentience in this universe, going by this rule. Whether they'd have a visible face or not is another question. So far, we've only talked about machines that are mobile. What about ones that aren't? Now let's look at some non-mobile examples. What about buildings? While there's not many examples of this, there are some sentient buildings in the Thomas universe. So how does that work? The most prominent example is Cranky, a stationary crane at Brendam Docks. Cranky is essentially a building, which again is kind of weird to think about. And for a long time, he was the only crane with a visible face in the series. However, he was not the only sentient one. As Thomas stated in Cranky Bugs,
We always arrange our trucks like this, and no crane has ever complained before.
no crane has ever complained before, meaning they're all alive and have the ability to speak and complain, whether they have visible faces or not. This is even explicitly stated to be the case with Big Mickey. When he finally spoke in season 21, he states he always had the ability to, even when he didn't have a visible face prior to this.
So now you speak? You've been standing there silent all these years, Big Mickey, and you've never said a single word.
Well, you've never said a single word to me either.
It's just no one ever spoke to him, so he never talked back. There's a couple examples of cranes who ride the line, where they don't have faces nor speak, but are treated as sentient, such as Old Wheezy, Hee-Haw, and Happy Hook. It's hard to tell with them if they're actually alive or not. It's very ambiguous. But to me, they confirm that the law of sentience is a pretty broad spectrum here. Not everything that is alive in this universe looks and acts in the same way. Cranes may not move in the traditional sense, but they do spin and have arms that they need to lower. They need to be able to function and power these things, so of course, they have engines. And that aligns with our rule so far. If they have engines, then they are sentient. So cranes check out, whether they have faces or not. So what about Owen? He isn't a crane, he's quite literally a building. Owen is an incline winch house. He powers the incline elevator at the Blue Mountain Quarry. Owen isn't just a building though. He's a giant boiler essentially, a stationary engine. He uses his power to move giant gears rather than wheels. He's basically an engine without wheels, which means he still aligns with our rule. This would also imply that all other stationary engines on Sodor would also be sentient, which tracks with the case of Smudger, who was once a mobile engine turned permanently stationary. God, I would hate to be a stationary boiler in this universe. What a dull existence. At least Cranky can move his head around and change his view. Owen is just stuck looking at the same thing his entire life. He'll go his whole life never knowing what it looks like behind him. So far, everything has aligned with our rule pretty well. As long as it has an engine or motor of some sort, it's alive. But now it's time to throw a big wrench into this. What about the rolling stock? The rolling stock characters are truly what break the universe, in my opinion. Obviously, characters like Rocky or Jerome and Judy make sense because they have engines to power their cranes. They need to be steamed up to function, so yes, they make sense. But what about Annie and Clarabelle, or Henrietta? Because there should be no good reason for why they are sentient. They are just boxes, with no engines or means of propelling themselves. Wooden boxes on wheels, essentially. There's nothing really all that different between them and a garden shed, is there? Is it just the fact that they have wheels and run on tracks? So if you take their chassis away, would that end life for them? Well, apparently not, because they did exactly this to Victoria in the books and Dexter in the TV series, and they both remained alive and well after. How about the trucks, or brake van characters? They're even more bizarre, because they're just crates, essentially. There is nothing but a plank of wood behind their faces. How does this work? Where are their brains? Where do their eyeballs connect? When they open their mouths, shouldn't we just see inside of the truck? What exactly are we looking at inside there? A portal to the fourth dimension? And not just trucks, but craft like Skiff too. He sort of falls into the same category, I think. Essentially just a bunch of wooden planks nailed together with nothing behind his face, and no beating heart in the form of an engine or motor. What on earth gives him life? Personally, if I were re-establishing the rules of how the universe works, I'm tempted to say I'd just get rid of the rolling stock being alive at all. But many of them are way too integrated into the universe, or are just too fun to be fully rid of. A Thomas world without Annie and Clarabelle, or Toad, or the troublesome trucks in it would just feel incomplete and wrong. But before we can dissect further, I think we need to understand Audrey's reasoning for making the rolling stock alive. Back in the day, trains would often have to stop before going down descents so guards could apply the wagon's brakes. Because without them on, they would simply roll into each other and force their weight onto the engine, which could potentially cause a runaway. Audrey personified this as the trucks being troublesome, and intentionally attempting to push the engine out of control for their own amusement. Trucks are also noisy things in real life. They're not always well looked after, so they creak and clatter as they go. Their buffers clang as they bump into each other. There's really no wondering how Audrey came to the conclusion that they would be rowdy and shout and sing if they were sentient. True railway gremlins. And because he gave the trucks sentience, coaches naturally should have it too. Since coaches are braked, carry passengers, and are regularly repainted and cleaned, he personified them as the opposite of trucks, as sensible posh things that follow orderly and behave well. Well, most of the time.
They surged into Sir Handel and pushed him off the rails.
At this point in the video, the rule that we have established thus far doesn't really apply anymore. We now have to broaden our understanding of what has sentience in the Thomas universe. Just having an engine is not the only qualifier anymore. I think we need to start thinking about intention and purpose in the world. While the trucks are essentially just crates on wheels, they do serve a much larger purpose than just a crate. They are a means of transport and make up a train. A train, after all, is not just the engine, it's the whole thing, rolling stock included, and rolling stock makes up the most of it. When a train is in motion in real life, it's not just the engine that gives the whole consist personality. All of it does. The engine may huff and puff and blow smoke, but the rolling stock clatters. They trick and truck. They make noise and act in a way that one can easily personify. They have their own quirks, which is what Audrey was getting at. Coaches sway from side to side at speed. Their brakes can fall on or couplings can snap. And they even have a means of propelling themselves once in motion, and they can shift their weight forwards. See the trucks in any runaway sequence, or even Hannah in Hasty Hannah.
Speed up! Oh!
With this sort of perspective in mind, the rolling stock having sentience starts to make a little more sense. What doesn't align is why only some trucks appear to be alive and some aren't. Like, why do not all the trucks and coaches have faces? But just like the engines, road vehicles, and cranes, I think we can assume the same here. They all are sentient, whether they have visible faces or not. I mean, the express coaches all had the ability to speak in Season 1, and they didn't have faces at all.
You're pulling us well, sang the coaches.
And not to mention Henrietta, who went 17 seasons without a face and was still able to speak. Although they did give her a face later on, but that's beside the point. So this brings us to a new, broader rule. It's not just having an engine that gives sentience. It is purpose. A means of serving transportation or service in the world. A means of propulsion, and having quirks that are personifiable. Let's get into the weeds even further now. We've established that any engine or rolling stock can be and is alive. But what about when you bring scale into it? We've seen the miniature engines of the Arlesdale Railway. They are 15-inch gauge engines. They're tiny, but they are still real steam engines. But what happens when we go smaller? How about a 5-inch gauge loco, like the ones you'd put in a backyard garden railway? Or how about a 16mm engine? They do produce live steam engines that use oil and coal to steam in this scale, so they are actual engines in the traditional sense. Surely they would qualify for sentience, right? What about when you go even smaller, like a 00 scale or N scale model train? Well, I hear you say, they don't have engines. They're powered by electrical currents in the track. And to that I ask, how is that different from a life-size electric railway? They're essentially the same thing, one is just smaller than the other. And we know for a fact that electric engines are alive in this universe. So could any model train in the Thomas universe be alive? Could you just have a conversation with that Hornby Flying Scotsman sitting on your desk? Now, we have seen model trains in the series, such as in the season 24 episode, The Great Little Railway Show, and they don't appear to be alive there. But who knows, having faces isn't a qualifier of sentience, so they may be alive for all we know. But I'm gonna say it's probably safe to assume that they're not. We need to draw the line somewhere, and I think this wraps around back to intent again. Model trains, at least at a smaller scale, are designed to be toys, basically. They're not a means of transportation or providing a service. Something like a 5-inch gauge engine, however, which can be used to transport people, falls on the other side of the line, I think. So there we go! It seems like we've figured it out! It's purpose that determines sentience, built to present some sort of service, mostly in the means of transportation, regardless if they have a beating heart in the form of an engine or not. There we go! We did it, guys! Everything that is alive in the Thomas universe falls under that description. Right? Ah, crap. Now it's time to start opening doors that weren't meant to be opened. Because Boulder is also implied to be alive. You all remember Boulder, right? The giant round boulder that terrorized the Skarloey Railway when it was knocked from its perch, and mysteriously gained a face for a few moments? It is quite ambiguous, though. It's never confirmed if the boulder's face is real, just something that Rusty sees, or as a form of visual representation showing nature being alive. The final episode seems to insist that it being alive is an extension of how Rusty personifies it.
Because of a big boulder, I think it's watching me, said Rusty nervously. How can it be? Boulders don't have eyes.
As in, it's not actually alive, but Rusty sees something more in it.
Rusty is sure that on a clear night it is gazing up at the mountain, and that its sighs are being carried on the wind to where it once used to stand, proud and silent.
At its core, Rusty and the Boulder is a man versus nature story. A story about how no matter what man does, nature will always find a way to overcome. And that's of course symbolized with the boulder. However, the original script does seem to insist it is a sentient boulder. It goes into detail about its origins, being placed on its perch by an ancient Celtic tribe as a mark of respect for the mountain and its views. Boulder even has dialogue at one point. "Engines, engines, I want engines," it hissed. None of this is brought up at all in the final episode though, and I do prefer it that way. I'm glad that it's left ambiguous for the audience to draw their own conclusions. My verdict on Boulder is that it is not literally sentient, at least in any conventional sort of way. It's alive in the same way nature is alive, and its face is something that only Rusty is able to see, showing that Rusty has this greater connection with the natural world than others do. That's my conclusion, anyway. Boulder does make me question all of this on a grander scale, however, and it makes me wonder if there is something else going on. The island of Sodor is definitely a strange place, and it's implied in both the books and TV series that there is some sort of supernatural element to it. This is a place where ghost trains seemingly exist, after all. It sort of aligns with Audrey's go-to explanation. When asked by children why the engines they see in real life don't have faces, his response was that the engines only had visible faces when they were on Sodor. So when they crossed the border to the mainland, they would disappear, hence why you've never seen them. Obviously, this explanation can be debunked, both in the books and in the TV series. We've seen the Sodor engines leave Sodor many times, and they retain their faces. But then I think about how Audrey has always claimed that the illustrations of the books are not canon, per se. Yes, the illustrator puts a face on Thomas during his time in York because it's a book, and it would be hard to sympathize with the book's main character if it didn't have a face to connect with. But we also have to keep in mind that the book stories are meant to be exaggerated retellings of supposed real events that occurred on Sodor that were witnessed by the Audreys on their visits, or were told to them by Sodor Railway staff. So in this hypothetical real event that this book is based on, did Thomas have a visible face while all this went down? Or is this one of those creative liberties taken by the artist for the sake of the book illustrations? The more I think about it, the more I think there might be something to what Audrey is saying here. I actually quite love the implication that there is something special about Sodor that no one can properly explain. Not necessarily a literal magic powered by a god train like Magic Railroad tries to tell us, but some form of divine intervention, if you will, that we just can't really understand. This is my ultimate conclusion to the question posed earlier in the video. How exactly do things in this universe gain their sentience? They all come alive because Sodor is alive. There's just something in the soil, in the water, in the air, that's different from the rest of the world. Engines, machines, carriages, any form of transport that have some sort of personality quirks in the real world are exaggerated and enhanced when they arrive here. Sodor is where those things come out of their shell and reveal themselves, if you will, and sometimes that is in the form of a visible face. Every engine or vehicle or ship out in the world that you've seen is alive. They all have personalities and thoughts that they just can't express to you. They can understand each other, hence why Stepney can interpret the personalities of the Bluebell engines, and the people that work with them in their day-to-day and truly appreciate them can understand them on that deeper level. And I think there's something really special about that. The special relationship between an engine and its human crew is something to treasure. It's why people could so heartlessly scrap engines back in the day, because they never truly understood them and didn't realize or care that they were alive. But on Sodor, all walls are lowered, and engines, rolling stock, vehicles, all of the above, truly emote on a level that all human beings can clearly understand. It makes Sodor's status as being a haven for engines carry so much more meaning. That is a pretty lofty answer, I must admit, but it's one I think I can live with. At the end of the day, we know the people who make the show don't think that hard about this stuff, and I don't think any of the Audreys or Britt Allcroft did either, to be fair. But I am curious what your thoughts are. What is your explanation for all of this? And how would you rule what can and can't be alive on Sodor? Let me know in the comments below. This pick of the week goes to a video that I watched literally the morning of recording this. Trust Thomas Blender Animation by Digital Rails. This is an absolutely outstanding recreation of the episode Trust Thomas. All done as faithfully and as closely to the model series aesthetic as possible. All in CGI. The visuals of this thing just blow me away. It's amazing how close this gets to looking like actual props on a set. Digital Rails, you really nailed it here. I only wish future official Thomas shows could look this good. Go show this some love and give it a watch. I have some exciting news for you all. We got a house. We've been living in a rental for the last month and a half. We closed on a new house earlier this month, and we officially move in this weekend. Actually, the day that this video goes live is our move-in date. So finally, I'll have my full office set up back up again, and hopefully my audio quality will go back to sounding normal. It also means I'm that much closer to starting work on my next model railway layout. It's admittedly all I've been thinking about the past couple months. Once we're all fully settled in, I plan to start work on that, and I will keep you all updated with the progress. I'm so excited to share my ideas for the next layout with you all. I'll more than likely share that progress over on Instagram, so go follow me there if you'd like to see the progress in real time. But of course, I'll make a new series here on YouTube too, once there's enough content to fill a video. And that's all I got today. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you all in the next one. Stay cool out there.